Hello students, welcome back to the session. We are studying about electric charges and fields. The topics to be covered in this lesson are types of charges, explanation of those charges with some of the examples, and next we are going to define and to know about neutral body, and the next one is electrification. So in this class we are going to study about types of charges, explanation of those with examples, neutral body and electrification. So let us start our discussion with types of charges. As we have discussed in the last class, there are different kinds of charges. So those are positive charge and negative charge. We know that there are two types of charges, and those types of charges are called as positive charge and negative charge. We denote positive charge by plus symbol. You can see here we define the positive charge, or we denote the positive charge by plus symbol and the negative charge by minus symbol. So positive is denoted by plus and negative is denoted by minus. Then how did we name these positive charge and negative charge? Who has named the charges as positive and negative? So we are going to know the person who has given the name. He is American scientist Benjamin Franklin. He is the American scientist Benjamin Franklin. You can see here. He is the first person to name a charge is positive and the other charge is negative. Then you may get a question that how did he name a particular charge is positive and a particular charge is negative. We are going to see some of the examples or illustrations to know why the charge is named particularly as positive and why the charge is named particularly as negative. That is what we are going to study. But remember that the Benjamin Franklin is a scientist who named the charges positive and negative. Now, there may be a chances of asking this question for 1 marks. The question may be asked as name the scientist who named the charges positive and negative. So there is a chances of asking this question for 1 marks. Okay, now then why did he name the charge is positive and the charge is negative? That is what we are going to discuss. So to know about these charges, again we have to see those examples which we have studied in the previous session. Okay, now so we'll study. Okay, example 1, charging with a silk cloth. Then what is this charging with a silk cloth? We have considered here one glass rod. You can see here is a one glass rod and here is a one silk cloth. Okay, I'll note it. I will highlight it. This yellow color rectangular shape one is a silk cloth and this cylindrical tube is glass rod. Here what they are going to do, as already I told you, the cylindrical glass rod is going to rub. You can see. Okay, now so it is just going to rub. When those two things are rubbed, then what happens, especially what happens in any of the body? In any of the body, what will be there? Charges will be there. If you consider this is a glass rod, this is a glass rod. This glass rod has some of the charges. Okay, now as we told, those are positive and negative. Okay, so some of the charges may be positive and negative. Okay, let me consider. And one more is there. What is that? That is cloth. You can consider this is cloth. Okay, this cloth also has both the charges, but there are some of the charges more in silk cloth and some of the charges more in glass rod. When these two are rubbed each other, then what happens? Some of the charges from this glass rod will transform to the silk cloth, as I told you in the previous class. So what happens in this glass rod? When you rub it, then what happens? Some of the charges from the glass rod will transfer to the silk cloth. Similarly, some of the charges from silk cloth will transfer to glass rod. So when the charges are get transferred, majority of the charges carried by this glass rod is positive. Majority of the charges carried by this glass rod is positive, whereas this silk cloth is negative. Okay, so from the glass rod, whatever the negative charges it was having, those charges are transferred to this silk cloth, and the positive charges whichever were had by this silk cloth are transferred to this glass rod. So when these two things are transferred, then this glass rod will become completely positive charge and silk cloth will become completely negative charge. Okay, let's go for the next example. That is example 2. Here what we are going to do, we are going to rub this ebonite rod with this fur. As I told you, fur in the sense animal fur. I mean, as we say that skin as we have, the similarly they will be having the fur. Okay, now so here what happens, this ebonite rod, or you can also consider in this place, you can consider a plastic rod also. Okay, so when a ebonite rod or a plastic rod is rubbed with this fur, then what happens? Equal amount of charges both of the material will have usually. Then when those two things are rubbed to each other, then what happens to ebonite rod? Ebonite rod will specifically has majority of charge carriers as negative charge, and fur will gain positive charge. Okay, when an ebonite rod is rubbed with fur, ebonite rod acquires majority negative charged carriers and fur acquires majority positive charge carriers. How does it acquire majority carriers? Just by transforming its charges to the other. Okay, only by the transformation. I hope you have understood. So what happened? By transferring some of the positive charges from the ebonite rod to the fur, the ebonite rod acquires negative charge. The ebonite rod acquires negative charge. And by transferring some of the negative charges to the ebonite rod, this fur will acquire positive charge. I hope you understood. So fur gains positive charge and ebonite rod gets negatively charged. Then now you will get the conclusion. See here, we can conclude that the charges are nullified. How are you going to say that the charges are nullified? Okay, as I told you, the glass rod is positively charged when it is rubbed with silk cloth. Similarly, the plastic rod is negatively charged when it is rubbed with fur. You can consider either plastic rod or ebonite rod. When we consider those two examples, we are going to conclude that the charges are nullified when two oppositely charged bodies are brought in contact. So if I explain you in detail, let us see here two bodies. Okay, now we'll consider. So one body, let me call this body is A, and this one more body is P. So these both the bodies are rubbed to each other. Previously, the body was having all amount of charges. So if I consider this body A, body ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇತ್ತು, ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಬಾಡಿ ಬಿ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಏನಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇತ್ತು ಮತ್ತು ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ರಬ್ಬಿಂಗ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಈ ರಬ್ಬಿಂಗ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ರಬ್ಬಿಂಗ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬಾಡಿ ಬಿ ಇಂದ ಬಾಡಿ ಎಗೆ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಓಕೆನಾ, ಬಾಡಿ ಎ ಇಂದ ಬಾಡಿ ಬಿಗೆ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಬಾಡಿ ಬಿ ಗೆ ಬಾಡಿ ಎ ಇಂದ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಅಕ್ವೈರ್. ಓಕೆ, ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ರಬ್ಬಿಂಗ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ರಬ್ಬಿಂಗ್. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬಂತು? ಓನ್ಲಿ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್. ಸೊ ಇವಾಗ ಏನಾಗಿರ್ತವೆ ಅವು ಎರಡು ರಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗಿರ್ತವೆ? ಇನ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್ ಟು ದೋಸ್ ಇನ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್? ಸೊ ಇನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಡು ವಿ ನೋ? ಇಫ್ ವಿ ಟೇಕ್ +4 and -4 equal amount of charges, let us say. Okay, so if they are having equal amount of charges, only the thing is signs are different. Okay, so what happens? +4 -4, will it be equal to 0? What do you mean by 0? You can consider it as null. Similarly, when two bodies have different kinds of charges with equal amount, let us see here. Body A has 4 charge. It has 4 charge. And what kind of charge is it? Let me take it as minus charge. And consider this body B has 4 similar charges, but it has the positive charge. It has positive charge. So when they are in contact, if you do sum up, then what happens to those amount of charges? 0. And this was seen by the Benjamin Franklin, that the two bodies, when they are kept in contact, the same force of attraction, or we say it as force of repulsion, that will not be happen for the long time. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಏನಿರ್ತಾವಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ನ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ನಿಂದಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೊತ್ತಿನ ತನಕ ಮಾತ್ರ ಎರಡು ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಬಟ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಏನಾಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿಫೈ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಶೋ ಎನಿ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್. When it is not showing any effect, he says that there are some amount of charges but which are opposite charges. If we want to know that one of the charge is opposite, then it may be plus. Opposite to that, it may be negative. So by that we conclude that there are two different kinds of charges. One is positive charge and the other is negative charge. By this only we say that the charges are nullified when two oppositely charged bodies are brought in contact. Is it clear? I hope you have understood. Okay, na? So next we are going to study about then what is positive charge and what is negative charge. Let us discuss the first one, which is positive charge. Okay, na? So we are going to discuss about what is positive charge. Then what is positive charge? You can see here. A body is said to be positively charged. A body is said to be positively charged when it loses an electron from it. A body is going to be said as positively charged only when it loses. You have to remember loses. So for an example, we will consider one body. Okay na? Illino one body ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೋಣ. ಈ ಬಾಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರ್ತವೆ? ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಸಿ ಹಿಯರ್ what are those number of charges which are going to be given here. So there are some amount of charges. Let us say those charges are here plus charges minus plus charge minus. As we rub with the another body, there are some amount of charges are going to be transferred. ಏನಾಗ್ತವೆ? some amount of charges transfer. So what happens to those charges? Those are going to be transfer. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಂತ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it is going to be negative charge. Negative charge ಅಂದ್ರೆ what is the symbol of those negative charge? That is minus. Okay, I have written negative. Is it clear? So ಯಾವಾಗ ಈ ಬಾಡಿ ಇಂದ electrons, negative is basically known as electrons. Okay na? Okay, so when electrons are removed from this one particular body, then what happens to those body? That body is said to be positively charged. To that body, what do we call it as? Positive charge. As I told you, you can once again consider there is one body. In the body there are number of charges. Let us consider only two positive charge and two negative charge. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ರಬ್ಬಿಂಗ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಚಾರ್ಜ್? ಅದು ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್. ಸೊ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಬೇರೆ ಬಾಡಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಬೇರೆ ಬಾಡಿ ಹೋದಾಗ ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಹೇಳ್ರಿ? ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ದ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್. ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲಿ? ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಯಾವಾಗ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಯಿತು ಅವಾಗ ಏನು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ, ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆನಾ. ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ನ ಏನಿದೆ, ಒಂದು ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಇದೆ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ 2 ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದು ಮೆಜಾರಿಟಿ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇದಾವೆ, ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ಲಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಮೆಜಾರಿಟಿ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಆ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ಲಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ಡ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಐ ಹೋಪ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್. ದ ಮೆಜಾರಿಟಿ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಯಾವ ಬಾಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತವೆ ಆ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಆ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಇಂದ ನೇಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? ಐ ಹೋಪ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್. ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? ಓಕೆ, ಒನ್ಸ್ ಅಗೇನ್, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ಲಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ಡ್ ಬಾಡಿ? ಅ ಬಾಡಿ is said to be positively charged when it loses an electron. Okay, so next let us know what are the characteristics of those positive charge. So here we say that when a body is positively charged, its mass slightly decreases. Okay, so when a body is positively charged, its mass slightly decreases. This is very obvious, you can even explain. Okay, as I told you, when you consider, ಇವಾಗ ಏನಾದರೂ ಒಂದು ಬಾಡಿನ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿರಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಇದ್ರಾಗಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತವ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ ಲೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತವ. ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ get lost, then what happens, the number of particles what it was containing, that will be reduced. When the number of particles contained by a body is reduced, obviously what happens to its mass decreases. Just imagine, let us consider you have a box. ಓಕೆನಾ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಆ ಬಾಕ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ, ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ 40 grams. Let me consider only 40 grams. This is enough. 40 grams weight slots ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತದ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೋ 30 grams ಸ್ಲಾಟ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಡೂ, ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಗಿವ್ 10 grams. What you will give? 10 grams. So when you give 10 grams, what are the remained grams? Remained weight on your hand? That is 30. That is 30. So previously you was having 40 gram and now you are having 30 gram. So 10 gram is reduced. You will feel that the mass whatever you were holding, the weight whatever you were holding previously, and now what you are holding, the weight which is of 30 gram is comparatively less weight. Then you will feel that the mass on your hand is reduced. Similarly, whenever a body loses the electron, the mass is going to be decreases. Whose mass is going to be decreased? The positively charged body's mass is going to be decreased. I hope you have understood. So in case of positively charged bodies, whenever it loses its electron, its mass decreases, slightly decreases. You can consider the example of a glass rod. As I told you in the previous slides, a glass rod is positively charged when it is rubbed with silk cloth. As the electrons from the glass rod is going to be lost and the majority charge carries in a glass rod is positive charge. So what do we say, that the glass rod is positively charged? Is it clear? So I hope you have understood the positively charged body. So next we are going to study about the next kind of charge, which is negative charge. So now we are going to study about negative charge. Then what do you mean by negative charge? See here. A body is said to be negatively charged when it gains an electron, exactly opposite to the positively charged body. Okay, now so let me see again. ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ವಿಲ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಒನ್ ಬಾಡಿನ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಈ ಬಾಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿದಾವಪ್ಪ, ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ 2 ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಆರ್ ಇನಫ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ 2 ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್. ಸೊ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಬಾಡಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಒನ್ ಮೋರ್ ಬಾಡಿ. ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದೇರ್? ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ negative charge. So let me see, say this body is A and this body is B. Okay na? So when these two bodies are rubbed together, ಇವಾಗ ಏನು ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, from the body A, the electrons, negatively charged bodies are going to transfer to the body B. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ 2 ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ 2ರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಯಿತು ಅಂದರೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಬಿಗೆ ಬಂತು. ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ಲಿ ಬಾಡಿ ಬಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು? 2 ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನು. ಈಗ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತಹ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟು? 1, 2 and 3. And what are actually the positive charge? It has one positive charge and two positive charge. So if you compare the number of positive charge to the number of negative charge, then which is majority charged carrier? Obviously, what is that? That is negatively charged. What is that? That is negatively charged. So to this body, what do we say? That this is negatively charged body. Again, you can read the definition. A body is said to be negatively charged body when it gains an electron. When any body gains the electron from the another body, then this body is going to be called as negatively charged. Okay, now so now we are going to study some of the characteristics of this negatively charged body. So what are those characteristics? Let us study. Okay, so we are going to study some of the characteristics. So see here, you can see when a body is negatively charged, its mass slightly increases. Then why the mass is going to be increased? It is just common sense. Even you can say it. As in case of positively charged body, the mass is decreases. The mass is decreased. But in case of negatively charged body, what happens? Mass increases. See here, as we told, in this body, there were two positive charge and two negative charge. But when the extra negative charge has come and occupied the space, what happened? The mass is going to be increased. Obviously, just imagine you have some chocolate box on your hand. You are having only two chocolates. If they are going to add some two more chocolates, so totally how many chocolates you are having? 4 chocolates you are having. Previously you were having 2 chocolates and now you are having 4 chocolates. So what happened? When something is going to be added extra, then its mass is increased. When something is going to be removed from that, its mass going to be decreased. It is obvious. Just you imagine your body keep a heavy weight on your head. Okay, previously how was it? You were so free. When you put on certain weight on your head, then what happens? You feel heavy. Why you are feeling it as heavy? The reason is the mass is increased. Is it clear? I hope you have understood. So whenever the body is gaining the electron, its mass increases. In the sense, whenever the body is gaining the electron, it is called as negatively charged body and hence its mass slightly increases. You can see an example here. So what is that example we are going to see? A plastic or ebonite rod is negatively charged when rubbed with fur. Okay, now so if you consider a plastic rod or ebonite rod, whenever it is rubbed with fur, plastic rod and ebonite rod is getting negatively charged, but fur is going to get the opposite charge of plastic and ebonite, which is positive charge. Is it clear? I hope you have understood. So we have discussed about what? Positive charge and negative charge. So next we are going to discuss about neutral body. I hope you have understood till now whatever we have discussed. We have discussed about positive charge and negative charge. Now we are going to discuss about neutral body. So neutral, you might have heard the word neutral everywhere. Okay, now so for example, if you are riding the bike, you will say that ride the bike in neutral mode. Better sometimes in certain situation, be neutral. Okay, now so what is neutral body? The definition is when a body has no charge, it is said to be a neutral body. As I told you in the previous slide, if we consider a body A and body B, because of the opposite charges, they will be attracted. Okay, now so after a certain time it will not show any effect. What is the reason? Here some 2 positive charges and here 2 negative charges. Then what happens to the total effect? 0. Plus 2 minus 2 will be equal to 0. Charges then it will become complete 0. To that only what do we say it as? 0. Okay, plus 2 charge minus 2 charge is equal to 0 charge. 0 charge in the sense what? No charge. 0 charge in the sense what? No charge. So to that only what do we call it as? Neutral body. Examples, you can take many examples. Two equal and opposite charges, when you keep it in contact, obviously after a certain time it will be neutralized. Okay, so to that only what do we say it as? Neutral body. Okay, now we are going to discuss about electrification. So what is electrification? The process of charging a body is called as electrification. Now we are going to study about what? Electrification. So what do you mean by electrification? The process of charging a body is called as electrification. Any body charging, in a sense, either it is by rubbing or it is by friction or it is by conduction. There are many kinds of charging process again. Just for example, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ನ ನೀವು ಮನೇಲಿ ಏನಾದರೂ ಚಾರ್ಜಿಗೆ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, so you will be putting on the switch. So when you put on the switch, charges are flowing through the wire. When the charges are flowing through the wire, in the sense what? The body, the mobile is getting charged. So when the mobile is getting charged, to that process only, what do we call it as? To that process only we call it as electrification. Okay, we have seen the many examples as a glass rod, when it is rubbed with silk cloth, it is electrified. When plastic rod and rubbed with fur, it is getting electrified. Is it clear? So this is about electrification. I hope you have understood. So what is electrification? The process of charging a body is called as electrification. You can see many examples. Charging, in the sense, either it may be rubbing or it may be friction in the sense rubbing only. Okay, I hope you have understood in complete today's class. So once we recall what we have studied in this class. Okay, now, so what did we study in this class? We have studied about types of charges. So what are those types? Positive charge and negative charge, and we have studied about explanations of those charges with the example. So glass rod and plastic rods examples we have considered, and also we have studied about neutral body and electrification. I hope you have understood all the topics. If you have any doubts, please comment in comment section. I hope everything is clear to you, and thank you.